Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Katie Batesman, the Managing Director at SheCanCode, and today we are discussing beyond technical skills, what really matters in a tech career. I've got the amazing Jenny Briant with me today, Academy Operations Director at 1010, to unpack why closing the gender pay gap still looks like a half-century project and what we can do today to speed things up. Welcome, Jenny. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Can we start with a bit of background about you to set the scene for our ladies, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my background is heavily in recruitment. I did a psychology degree, mostly because of the A levels and the GCSEs that I did. And I think that that feeds in quite nicely to the topic of women in tech. I felt quite shunted into humanities subjects for my GCSEs. That then defined the A level subjects that I was able to do, which then kind of limited me in terms of the degree subjects that I was able to do. Loved my psychology degree, saying that, but as psych grad, there were no real opportunities for me in tech, and I'd always had an interest in it. I didn't know if I was a particularly techie person, but I knew that I wanted to be part of that environment, part of that progressive industry. And when I finished university, I fell into a small startup recruitment agency and was able to utilize my degree there as a people person, a communicator, building relationships. I really enjoyed that. And after working there for several years, I came across my current company, 1010, saw that they had an academy for people from any background, didn't need to be techie, didn't need to have a STEM degree in order to apply. So I applied for a position on the academy. I remember being invited to the office to deliver a presentation as part of my interview to the managing director at the time. And thought to myself, oh, this is quite a big graduate scheme. Does the managing director do sit downs with everyone that applies? That's absolutely wild. How lovely. Turned up, and about 15 minutes in, I realised that they were not interviewing me for a place on the academy. They were interviewing me to be a recruiter for the academy.
Oh gosh.
Tried to front it out for a further kind of 5, 10 minutes, and then just came clean. Realised that there was a bit of a miscommunication. Got to the end of the interview, got to deliver my presentation, and at the end, the MD said, "Look, we really do need a strong recruiter for the academy at the minute. We like your vibe, we like your personality, we like your background. We want to offer you the job as a recruiter. Would you consider that? And in return, you can go through the training on the academy. And if the stars align, you can transfer over into that department if that's something that you want to pursue, or if you want to stay in recruitment, you can." Long story short, I stayed in recruitment. I absolutely loved the company. I loved being able to utilize my skill set. I loved being able to speak to so many different people and watching their journeys grow. I did do the training, and it turns out I'm not techie.
No.
I'm not at all. I mean,
You
God
got
loves
to
a
give it a
trier.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I consider myself as a woman in tech. I contribute a lot, and I'm the least techie person I know, and that's how I got here. I've worked here for almost 8 years now, and I joined the board of directors in 2022. So I've really had the opportunity to build my career in this company, and I really believe in what we do in the academy.
I love that. And a lot of our community as well are not techie. There's
Yeah,
so many people in our community that fell into tech and don't code and are not technical, and they still have wonderful jobs. And that's something that we really advocate for. And why this podcast was started, because we just wanted to talk to people across all disciplines in tech, what they do, how they fell in. So many people fall into tech and then realize
yeah,
what a great industry it is and that they hadn't considered it. Because you at school, it sounds like there wasn't somebody that was there that was sort of in a great tech role that you'd seen, or a role model perhaps had come in, or you'd had that somebody in your career department
mm,
talk to you about working in tech. It was kind of like you just went along with what you thought you were good at the time, and you don't
yeah.
get that, you don't really get that traditional route very much, where people sort of think, yes, somebody came into my school and I was so inspired by her, I went into tech.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have those role models, but I think the fact that I ended up doing those heavily humanities-based subjects has really benefited my role in a tech environment because I'm analytical, because I'm a problem solver, because I'm a strong communicator. So kind of grateful for it now, especially now I know that I'm not particularly technical, but I have a lot of
And it's
skills
good
that
to
are
try.
transferable.
Yeah, that you can try, and that's the great thing about tech, is that you can try different things. If they don't suit you, then you can do something else. And we always encourage our community to try things for free first. There are lots of wonderful free boot camps and training, and we're like, give it a go, because it's not for everybody. And that's okay that, that you took something and you really didn't like it. That's fine, do something else. But don't
Absolutely.
spend, lots of money sometimes and then think, oh gosh, spent
Yeah,
thousands, it's not for me.
yeah, exactly that, exactly that.
Your own path, so as you said there, it wasn't the classic computer science route, like so many people. But what pivotal experiences convinced you that alternative entry points can actually strengthen a tech team?
Well, I think reflecting on my own background, firstly, I mean, if we think about someone who's perhaps gone to uni and done an English lit degree, for example, on paper, you can't really think of anything further away from tech. But to break that down, that person's just spent 3 years in a really heavily essay-based subject. And in order to approach these assignments, this person has had to really absorb, compare, and contrast various texts with each other. You've got to be so analytical. You've got to have great attention to detail. And as you're moving through this essay, you're constantly, as I say, comparing and contrasting, analysing, reflecting, adding your own opinion. And then right at the end of that essay, you're formulating your own conclusion based on your own analytical work. And that's pretty similar to how you would approach testing a bit of software. You've already got a skill set. So through speaking to people in my recruitment background, that became very clear. We could see those correlations. And someone who can speak multiple languages, to learn a new language, you typically start with the syntax. And that's how we teach people to code. So if that person has already got that mindset, it's the same. People who've worked in retail or hospitality are always really interesting to me. They can work under pressure. They have those strong communications skills. They can problem solve pragmatically. They're typically calmer in a potentially stressful situation. And off the back of that, I mean, within our academy, only 30% of the participants in the almost 12 years that we've run the programme have come from any kind of STEM background. So we've seen and proven that alternate entry points to this industry works, and it works well. And by broadening those entry points into the tech industry, we can welcome highly capable talent, people who are willing to learn, can bring new perspectives, fresh ideas, skills. And so it's hard for me to think of any pivotal experiences, because I think the whole 8 years of my 10-10 career has been a pivotal experience, and it's proven us right time and time again.
Yes, definitely. You're so right. A lot of our community talk about they've transitioned from one career to another. They always ask, is it too late? That seems to be the question. And it's actually just finding that story of trying to find those skills that are just really easy to transfer over to tech. And you're so right. And you just mentioned retail there. And there are certain jobs where you can pick out those skills. I had a guest on here, and she worked in a pub when she was younger, and she said that really made me, because she was young, she worked behind a busy bar, and she said all the skills that I learned. And I said, I know, because I've mentioned on here before, when I was a student, I worked in McDonald's, and if you watch the people in McDonald's, it is such a hard shift. You're getting shouted at by the public,
Yeah.
you have to think really fast. And I remember some people would start and I'd see them for 1 or 2 shifts and they'd disappear really quick because they
Yeah.
just couldn't take the speed of what was happening. And you then realize when you're older, those experiences and all those soft skills that you picked up during that time, even though it sounds like you had this like small job somewhere, actually they all help for when you do go on to your career. And like you
Oh,
said, when you go
yeah.
into tech, things move so fast in tech, and you think that's okay. I can stay calm because I work behind a bar or something like that. And you think I know how to do that. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, especially individuals as well, like in recruitment, they'll help you to figure that out, and they'll sort of help you to say, actually, did you know you have all of these wonderful skills that perhaps you didn't consider that actually are really important? Because it's not just the tech skills, is it? It is also all of those wonderful soft skills that some people don't even realize they have.
100%. And I don't think we can underestimate the importance of soft skills. I think they're almost more important, especially since COVID. I think that the tech industry specifically sees more value than they used to in the importance of soft skills. I mean, I used to work in a bar. I think I managed 4 years in the end, where 4 nights a week they sold any spirit for £1. And I tell
Wow.
everyone, if I manage to do that, I can do anything.
Yes.
You can
Gosh.
imagine the carnage.
That sounds like they really set you up as a person ready for the tech industry.
Absolutely. Transferable skills for life, that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it is sometimes just looking back and thinking, actually, that really did make me as a person, and I'm going to take that with me. I think so many people worry in the tech industry that you have to be highly qualified, and it does for certain roles, of course, you have to have certain qualifications, but it's not for all of them. And that if you do fall into the right company and they give you the opportunity to learn, um, then why not? But at least come in and give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. Aptitude and attitude
Yeah.
key when you're entering the industry, I think for sure.
Exactly. And something that is on everybody's lips at the minute that I wanted to ask you about was about AI, because when we talk about tech moving incredibly fast and having to keep up with things, 1010 has chosen not to use fully automated AI tools in recruitment. But what specific biases or failure modes have you witnessed that made you decide the human touch is non-negotiable on some of those things?
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. We don't currently use any form of AI within our recruitment practices. That's not me saying we never will, but right now I haven't found one that can replicate what we do to the level of quality that we do it. Semi recently trialed a tool, and I utilised 20 of our current high performing employees, ran them through this AI recruitment tool, and it told us that 11 of them should be rejected. And it's a tricky one for us because we're a consultancy. We service many clients from varied industries in different locations, wide-ranging company cultures, team structures. So there really isn't a one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to our recruitment. An exceptional high performer working for us for one client may be not the right fit and a real low performer for another client. So we have to be that people business first and foremost. And off the back of that, being human in recruitment is key.
Yeah.
Um, I think where we're at the minute with these AI tools, they've got the capability to analyze written text, video interviews, and they can assess some body language and speech patterns that demonstrate certain skills patterns that correlate to a strong job performance in past instances. But the concern is, are they potentially eliminating candidates who could have been suitable? And in our case, I firmly think that the answer is yes. And in terms of some failure models I've witnessed, I think it was 2019, Harvard Business Review wrote an article that demonstrated this really clear bias in AI English speech recognition software. It showed that the tech had far superior accuracy rates for white males, because we know that AI systems learn from data, and data must be representative of the entire diverse population in order to be correct. And the data out there at the minute is not representative. So I'm apprehensive, and something would have to be really, really impressive for me to consider using it, because I trust my talent team implicitly. They
Yeah.
know who we are, they know what we want, and no interview is ever the same. speaking to people, learning who they are as a person, what they value, what they want from their career. That's how we'll learn how we could potentially get the best out of them. And I haven't found anything that could come close to replicating that yet.
Yes, that's so interesting because as a recruiter as well, you're a really good judge of character, and
Yes.
having those, AI just can't do that. AI cannot be a good judge of character as it stands, because I've noticed on interviews that we'll have some really good candidates on the phone, and then they'll do like an interview on Zoom, and then we'll meet them in person. And I try not to get too excited about people now, because people are different in different settings, but when you meet someone in person and they come across very different than when they came across on the phone, and you think, oh, if I were to put you in front of a client, like that's not going to work because you're a different person when you're actually, real life meeting someone. All of that you can't get through AI. You need to it I suppose can help perhaps narrow down some lists that a human would still have to check through, but when it actually comes down to picking people and being that judge of character and what they're like. Now, I completely agree. That's something that recruiters are experts in. So I don't think that will ever be replaced. But AI can help, but yeah, it wouldn't be replaced at all.
Yeah, agreed. I like to think of it as a supplement rather than a replacement.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing with AI. Everybody's really, some people are panicked about it, and then others are like, oh, it's helping me so much in, making sure that I can now move on and do different things and do other things faster. But there's always that somebody, a human, needs to intervene and just double check everything. And so yeah, can help to that point. But no, when it comes to recruitment, definitely not. Um, PwC, their 2025 Women in Work Index, so depressing, predicts another 46 years to close the gender pay gap. What a great number.
Mm.
So from where you sit, which single policy change, that could be company level or government level, could shave the most time off of that projection?
Oh gosh, to pick one. Um, Companies, in my opinion, should make hiring decision criteria, promotions, and pay rises transparent. That will ensure that all employees have equal opportunities to progress. Adhering to structured and strictly skill-based interviews for recruitment and promotions will reduce unconscious gender bias. Widening your potential applicant pool, rethinking structural issues that can prevent women from doing particular jobs, ensuring that you're advertising to women through inclusive job descriptions, gender neutral language, making role requirements clear and specific, focusing on the required skills and behaviours rather than an exhaustive list of qualifications wherever possible. Making sure that your list isn't full of nice to haves, that it is relevant. We know that women tend to not apply for a role if they don't meet almost all of the criteria listed on the job description, while men will apply if they meet roughly 55%. Placing job adverts where they're most likely to be seen by those underrepresented. So, for example, if you're targeting women returning from maternity or a career break, it would be useful to advertise on websites that cater to them, like Mumsnet, which is a brilliant resource. Review your suppliers if you aren't getting enough female applicants. Find a supplier that has an account manager that you can rely on and you can really talk through your objectives and that will support you in that. Using structured interviews for recruitment and promotions that ask exactly the same questions of all candidates in a predetermined order and format, and grading those responses using standard criteria that you've agreed with everyone beforehand, making the responses that you get comparable, reducing that, again, impact of unconscious bias, having a diverse interview panel and selection panel, encouraging salary negotiation by showing clear salary ranges and not going outside of those. That will encourage women to negotiate their salary by making those ranges clear, and it gives them the opportunity to negotiate a little bit more, because typically women don't negotiate while men do. I'm being sweeping generalizations here, but the facts are facts from
Yeah.
from the research that's been done. And while employees don't currently have the automatic right to know what someone else earns, although to be fair, this is currently being campaigned for, they do have the right to know how salary increase calculations are made. So it's essential that employers have a clear criteria in place of transparency and they keep accurate records of deciding factors when these decisions are being made. That was quite a waffly answer, wasn't it? But
No,
transparency.
I love everything you just said, and I agree with all of it, because especially with the transparency of pay is such a taboo topic.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
such a, you go in the interview, you don't, there isn't a salary range, you're not sure if you're pitching anywhere near it. I've been in a role where I got there and it started to dawn on me that perhaps I'd really just underpitched myself, and
Mm.
it's, you start to think, I think my predecessor was on a lot more than me, and nobody pointed that out when I went for the interview. And it just leaves a bit of a bad taste, and you sort of think, probably not going to stay here very long. You don't get off on a good foot with that company. Whereas, and I've told this story before, but at SheCanCode, I actually interviewed and I undershot what I was asking for, and they let me know that actually there was a little bit more available. And I thought, I've never been for an interview where somebody has said, actually, there's more available and you should have asked for that. But it's something that we try and advocate for at the company. So for them to tell me that at the time, I was like, oh, thank goodness, a company that actually says and does means that you commit as well more to that company. You're more committed
Yeah.
because, they actually live by what they say. But there are so many companies that and I've worked with people who have got in and then thought, actually, I think I should have asked for more. They don't stick around long. And it's a difficult one, because when the company does then have to post a job, they're like, well, I don't want to put the money on it because it might upset other people. And you think, but if you're just transparent from the start, then, everybody knows where they stand. And some companies, that's very hard to unpick now. Now they're in that position where nobody knows what anyone earns. And it's a fireable offence to talk about salary as well. That one where you're not allowed to talk about salary to each other doesn't help anybody. But I love the fact that you mentioned placing ads as well, because in our community, that's something that we encourage with our corporate ambassadors. And you're so right, finding the right places, the right community, and actually having a plan, not just thinking I threw my jobs up on, like a big recruitment site and I'm expecting to get all of the right diverse candidates through. You never will. So find those communities that have the right people, even if they don't all, go and apply for that job, but you can interact with those people. We encourage our partners to interact with our ladies, like reach out to them, start a conversation around your role, because like you said, there might be things in that role that are in the job description that are turning people off from applying. So reach out to them, ask them, like, what do they think? Start a conversation around what that job could be like, instead of just then expecting, I've thrown a job description up and I'm going to get some amazing people through the door, really diverse candidates. You actually have to make an effort, and it's not done through magic, is it?
I actually have a friend who's in recruitment, and she was really struggling to get female candidates to apply. And she ended up posting the job description with some of the information redacted onto Reddit, and tagged loads and loads and loads of different Reddit users and communities in this post saying, hi, I'm recruiting for this role. My target is to get more female candidates. Can I have some feedback? And it pretty much went viral. Thousands and thousands of people were commenting, and she engaged with as many as she possibly could, saying, thank you so much for that feedback. I've reworded it. What do you think of this? And through engaging with all of those people, hundreds started commenting saying, how do I apply for this? It sounds really interesting. I've been reading through the comments and your responses, explaining a little bit more about what that meant, It sounds brilliant. And I just thought that was absolutely phenomenal. What a clever
Yeah.
idea.
And the power of a community that can really give you the answers that You know,
Yes. Yeah.
you just ask. That's all you've got to do. You don't get that on a job board. You know, you just post it, people see it and just disregard it and don't apply. Whereas if you are looking for the right communities and you do post a role in there,
Mm.
we encourage that to start tagging people, tag people with relevant skills and ask them, you
Yeah.
know, are you interested? And they don't have to leave a message either on, you know, a live feed or anything like that. You can direct message them, and then, you know, if somebody's a bit weary that their employer might be in there or something, like direct message them. But you have to ask, and again, it does come down to that effort, the effort to find diverse candidates, like your friend just reaching out and asking. People love to come back and give you feedback, so good and bad is the other thing.
Yeah, very true. It was a
um,
risk, it paid off.
yeah, it was a good risk to take. We spoke a little bit about soft skills earlier, so I wanted to follow on from that, because you lead training programs that blend technical skills with what you call power skills,
Yeah.
like communication and problem solving.
Mm.
How do you measure the impact of those softer competencies once graduates hit real world project? Because that's a baptism of fire, isn't it? You come out of uni and you're like, you know, got all the skills I needed, and then you're like, yeah, but I can't function in the world of work because I've
Yeah.
got no soft skills.
Absolutely. Well, when they start with us, they go through this fairly intense training program that's various modules, and scores are given on every module on hard and soft skills. So we'll sit that person down and say, you know, you absolutely smashed the coding module, well done. However, you didn't really ask many questions. You didn't look like you were active listening. Your body language was this. In your group, it didn't seem like you were particularly engaged. We go through a lot of situation-based exercises and training as well, so that they can demonstrate soft and hard skills in a controlled environment, learn from that experience, get peer-to-peer feedback, as well as feedback from the training team. We utilise our academy wellbeing team to conduct one-to-one mock interviews with all of our trainees as well. And they'll focus on and give feedback on soft skills as well. So again, it's a learning opportunity for the trainee to reflect, because they can be the best coder in the world, but if the soft skills are lacking, it's not going to fly in a consultancy. We encourage our clients to meet with our trainees and interview based on attitude and aptitude rather than current skill set, and provide us with detailed feedback on that. So positive or negative outcome, we can pass that on to the trainee and work through it with them, because it's not just about teaching them those hard techie skills. It is always about constantly improving your soft skills as well. Once they go onto client site and they're in a real life project, we conduct regular performance reviews and feedback sessions so that we can track and measure progress and areas for development. We rely on 360-degree feedback to gain that holistic view of softer skills and the impact that they're having in that person's workplace. We have regular drop-in sessions and an academy representative committee. So every academy cohort that joins us will vote for 2 reps who will meet with my team once a month, raise questions, pass on feedback both ways. We can utilise that to provide feedback based on what we've heard. A few people in your academy haven't been attending these meetings. They haven't been doing this. Do you know why? We're going to reach out to them. Would you like to reach out to them? It's just that constant reflection to make sure that we're always on top of it, that we're always measuring the impact of the importance of soft skills.
I love that. And I think when you're talking about it in like a controlled environment, interview practice, oh my God, interview practice and feedback is so important. And you don't realize that as a graduate, because you go from university and then you go off to your first interviews. And even though it can be quite brutal when somebody gives you some really honest feedback, it does really help you for your next one. Because I remember back when I graduated is probably the first 5 to 10 interviews I'd done. Totally, I could have just totally scrapped those. And it was just, you need that practice of
Yeah.
what to say, what not to say. And I remember I had the worst feedback from somebody once who was quite brutal and said to me, I was probably very young and very Essex. And he said to me, I wouldn't let you loose with CIOs. And I was like, brilliant, what lovely feedback, because of my accent. I was like, great, thank you for that. But it was
Wow.
such honest feedback that I hadn't noticed that perhaps in those other interviews, the others might have been thinking the same thing. And I wasn't very worldly in terms of work at that point.
Mm.
And you do need that feedback. So if you have it in a controlled environment where you're not actually going for a job and somebody gives you some tips on how to present yourself and how to come across, that is just priceless, than
Yeah.
just going into things and think, oh, I missed out on that opportunity because I was a bit too Essex.
No, I do completely agree. And we try more than anything to create a safe space within the academy. And that's very much by design of our processes. The academy team is very, very close knit. So that's the training team, the operations team, the wellbeing team, and the talent team. And all of these faces are involved from day one. They're involved in recruitment. Every candidate will have interaction with these teams throughout the recruitment process. They'll have interaction with all of them in the onboarding process, on their first day, during training. And then wellbeing and ops will look after these people throughout their tenure with 1010. The learning and development team, the trainers, they are the career coaches and direct 1010 line managers for these people throughout their tenure with 1010. So it's building up that relationship of mutual trust and respect, so that when we do have to pass on areas for improvement or some constructive criticism, they trust us. They know that we've got their best interests at heart. We're saying this to help them, and we're going to work with them to improve.
Yeah, yeah.
Creating
And
that family environment, yeah.
yes, definitely. And it is ongoing, and it is like even down to your first day, can really make a difference to somebody, especially when you have just graduated and you're not quite sure. You might not have had a part-time role or anything at university, and it's so different when you actually step into that world. And especially people that have taken traditional routes, they might think, I took the computer science degree and I know what I'm doing, and then actually you don't. Once you get onto a real world project, you're like, oh gosh, actually I could do with some support here. So that's amazing to have. Talking about young people and Gen Z talent often cites purpose and inclusion as deal breakers, which is really interesting because that used to be salary was the deal breaker.
Yeah.
But what have you learned about mentoring or sponsoring early career women so they can see a long-term future in tech rather than a stepping stone?
But well, I've learned that it is vital. It's up to tech leaders to help break down those barriers to entry and take action to take practical and meaningful steps to ensure that women that join tech stay in tech. And a part of this is the proper facilitation of mentoring young women that enter the field, ensuring that they feel supported and empowered and sponsored as they embark on this career. In my view, imposter syndrome is still a huge issue in tech, women in tech. And that's often due to the very visual gender imbalance, the lack of representation, sometimes the unconscious bias within tech teams. So having those strong mentors and role models that can provide guidance, challenge like your negative thoughts, help you to advocate for change, and overall just provide you with a sense of community and just have your back can help to alleviate this. Speaking from my specific experience, as I've mentioned, we accept people from any academic or employment background. We choose to focus on aptitude and attitude rather than experience. And again, as mentioned, I originally joined as part of the recruitment team. And I really quickly noticed that candidates from a non-STEM background, specifically female candidates from a non-STEM background, really struggled with imposter syndrome. And that's before they even started with us.
Yeah.
When I was making job offers, I'd typically spend 10 minutes max on the phone with a male candidate offering them the job. But it was a real regular occurrence to spend close to an hour on the phone with a female candidate, explaining that they'd earned this offer, they'd shown their capabilities. We saw that they had skills and strengths that would lead to them thriving here. And I would do that every time, more than willingly, more than happily. I would spend hours on the phone if I needed to, just to try and convince them that they'd earned it just as their male counterparts had. Um, there was a woman that joined our academy several years ago, actually, and she's going to stick in my mind forever. She had a first class comp sci degree from a Russell Group university. She'd already been working in tech as a developer for over 7 years, but the environment that she worked in was male dominated, unfortunately, hugely misogynistic. And when she applied, I remember asking her why. Said, You've already got all these hard skills that we're going to teach you. You've got years of experience. But it came down to the fact that her previous experience had beaten her down so much that she just wanted to go back to basics and rebuild her confidence.
Oh man.
She wanted to find an organisation that had a focus on diversity and inclusion. And we worked with her primarily on rebuilding her confidence before placing her with a client who embraced her fully.
Yeah.
She ended up transferring over and working for them permanently. She's still there now, years on, thriving. And it just goes to show how important having those female mentors or any allies is.
Yeah, and falling into the right company, how
Yeah.
that can make such a difference to whether or not you want to stay in tech, whether you want to move forward in that company. Oh well, yeah, to make her feel that way. I've heard this on here before about people, some companies, they'll say, oh, we're really inclusive, you know, we have a women in tech group. And then when you look into it, it's a Slack channel
Yeah.
and that's it. And you go, well, it's a bit more than a Slack channel. It's actually how you feel going to work every day, because a lot of companies do just have that
Mhm.
very high level, oh, we do this and we do that. SheCanCode, we refer to it as you put out one tweet on International Women's Day and you've done that. You've done your bit for the year. Well
Yeah.
done, you. But your female employees actually don't feel very included, and day to day they're kind of mapping out their route of how they can move on to the next company or even leave tech entirely, because that lady felt like, you know, her confidence had just really been knocked and that she wanted to start from scratch. But yeah, I mean, hopefully she went on and really rebuilt her confidence and went on to a good role and they really valued her. But how sad that people feel that way in their jobs.
No, I know, absolutely awful. I think, transparency, ownership, mentoring, role models, absolutely vital. If you're a tech leader, regardless of your gender, you've got to live that and promote it. You've got to have these discussions with people. You've got to call out injustices as and when you see them. We've all got to be part of the solution, and that comes through talking about it, being transparent. I can't believe that she had to go through that and
Mm.
essentially go back to basics and start again.
Yeah.
But what a wonderful thing that she's absolutely smashing it now.
Yeah, yeah. And how her confidence would have been built up a little bit quicker is she'd found her network as well, like you talking about mentoring. So important. People always think as well mentoring has to be done internally in a company, and people think, oh, we don't have a mentoring program, so I don't have a mentor. We have a mentoring program naturally in our community because we wanted to connect people that wanted to help and people that needed help.
Mm.
And ours is free. And we encourage people just to connect with whoever you think can help you. They don't always have to have the right skills that you're looking for, but they could help in other ways in terms of moving into leadership or soft skills or whatever it may be. But finding that person that can turn around and say, you know what, you're not the only person that's feeling that way as well. Just being told, like, oh, I'm not the only one that's got imposter syndrome.
Exactly that. One thing that I love that we do every new cohort that joins our academy, I join them for an admittedly very long chat where I'll basically just talk about myself. It sounds very self-indulgent, but I basically tell them my life story, and through that, the reoccurring theme is my failures
Yeah.
and how that's kind of benefited me or didn't benefit me, or what I learned from it and what happened next. Big part of it is my battle against imposter syndrome, which came especially when I joined the board. And after we get the bit about me out the way, it evolves into a really great discussion. Everyone gets involved, everyone shares, we offer advice, we call people out saying, well, why are you saying that? That sounds really negative. That's great. And from that, so many conversations come out of it. And we touch on some really interesting topics like gender equality, like racism, sexism, pay, and just having that open, transparent conversation. It's so important. I try my very best to live what I preach. And my team very much does as well. And we're very lucky to have some really great people that we work with that are willing to share their stories so that other people can learn from it and share theirs as well.
Yes, definitely. And that sharing those failures are so important, not just for you as well, because then you notice, you think, actually, that was a failure. And perhaps I did need to be told that. I did need to learn that lesson. And then
Yeah,
almost talking about it, you think, how can I move on and move forward and also help other people along the way? Because we do have that shiny Instagram world going on where everyone's like, ah, do you remember 5 years ago, decided to start a business and look at me now? And that's the only thing you see. And you don't see everything in between that happens to that person to
yeah,
get there. You just see the LinkedIn post of this time last year, I stepped
yeah.
out into the world and started a business. And you think, yeah, but I really want to know what happened in between because I guarantee you had lots of failures and lots of challenges.
Yeah, it wasn't always that shiny.
No, and it could really help other people that are thinking about doing the same thing and the actual reality behind it.
Definitely.
We spoke a little bit earlier about AI.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to ask you, looking ahead 5 years, what does responsible AI in hiring look like to you? Can you paint us a picture of the tools, safeguards, governance models that you'd like to see
Mhm.
become industry standard?
Um, Great question. To be honest, to refer back to my earlier comment, I like to think that AI tools will be used more so as an add-on to traditional hiring rather than instead of. I do truly believe that regardless of how advanced AI tooling gets, the the focus on soft skills in recruitment, certain assessments, they can't be fully taken out of the hands of humans. I think in terms of governance, organisations utilising these tools should ensure transparency and accountability. Having a person or a team that's responsible for the actions and decisions that are made by these systems and therefore the results. Organisations that use these tools should be able to understand and, more importantly, explain how their AI systems are making decisions. And they should continuously be monitored and evaluated to identify any issues, any potential biases that arise. Um, the 2023 law that New York City passed to ensure fair hiring and promoting practices for employers, I think was a really interesting one and something that we should bear in mind as well in 5 years' time. And most importantly, companies just have to be mindful in their approach to using AI in hiring to set the standard for ethical AI use in hiring and promoting practices. We're still fairly early on. So mindfulness is key. And in 5 years' time, I would like to think that we've got something similar to the New York City law and that levels of compliance are high.
Yeah, definitely. And you touched upon that before as well about data,
Mm,
and that it learns from that data and it is being mindful of what we are feeding it because
yeah,
it is just gonna learn from what we're feeding it. And unfortunately, those biases and unconscious or conscious, they're still there. So if we're just going to feed them into AI, they're still going to give us the wrong results. So you are right, is being mindful of things and not just thinking, oh fab, I threw that through AI and it spat out the perfect candidate, and then you interview them and you think, how did you get here?
Definitely.
Jenny, I could keep talking to you if I had the time today to keep going, because I'd love to keep picking your brains on this topic. But we're already out of time. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts with us today. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you so much for having me. Really great conversation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And for everybody listening, thank you as always for joining us. And we hope to see you again next time.